different countries, especially if they have natural resources. But in our own country, we're not, I mean, the greatest resource is, of course, human beings. And the best way to make America great or stronger would be to have less losers. Well, what's the best way to have less losers? To have more people succeed. What's the best way to have more people succeed? Give them more opportunity and chance to not be stuck in a quagmire, not be trapped in a ghetto.
I believe we should allocate excess from other areas to improve certain areas.
In that sense, I believe in socialism to a certain extent. Like, I believe in it with fire departments. I believe in it with the police department. I believe we should spend money that comes out of, the public pool to fix things.
Right. I look at New York. There are some neighborhoods that are really bad, some neighborhoods that are really good. Well, if we take excess from the really great neighborhoods and use that to fix roads, pay for schools in poor neighborhoods, crime is one of the biggest correlations for crime is poverty.
Yes.
So if we can get better schools, we need to reform the school system straight up. Yeah. If we can get better hospitals, if we can fix the roads, then we're doing a lot to reduce crime and reduce poverty, and a rising tide lifts all ships.
See, what they're missing here is the gold and silver standard. A single male needs to have the incentive of being able to go out into the country and grow some food. Because a farmer produces, that feeds a city. So they're 100 times more valuable to the community as the food producers and the food gatherers and the processing of it. And so by everyone just crowding into nightclubs in the cities with these mega cities of 38 million people, which is where we're heading or have headed with burning of fossil fuels and oil, that unlimited energy. So that's where this discussion, unless you have that, where do you live, the city or that? So if you get someone who's very successful at growing food in the rural area, they then have silver coins which they can convert to gold coins and then move into the city, and then there's an economy of the gold in the city, and then vice versa. Someone that's not succeeding in the city, they then have to move out to the rural areas. So that means that everyone gets fed. When they talk about a universal basic income, what they're talking about is making sure that everyone has some food. I mean, I just heard a thing on the radio today that schools in the South Island have this lunch at schools, because there are issues of people not getting enough to eat at school. So that's why the gold and silver standard.
Yes. So that's why, that's why I like Bernie Sanders. Although I make sure I tell people, he is a little too left for me. He is. But when we were looking at who we had in 2016, I was like, yeah, Bernie's my guy.
I like some parts of him. I liked him culturally. I liked that,
right.
For the same reason in some ways that I liked Obama culturally. I mean, I don't like the drone attacks. I don't like the attacks on whistleblowers. There's a lot of aspects of it that I found very disturbing and distasteful and against the narrative of what we think of who he is. We think of him as this extremely articulate, very well-read, educated guy, and a good figurehead in terms of who the president is.
Right. And he was drone bombing foreign countries. His administration was claiming that military-aged men who were enemy combatants. One of the biggest.
Yeah, so we'll leave it there because it's getting into the 2020 election process between Biden and Trump. I just wanted to do the progressive taxation and see, a lot of people have a religious background, and from my perspective, I've studied deeply into the Baha'i writings, and so a lot of my motivation comes out of that, and it's a progressive nature. So if I wasn't to be a Baha'i, I'd be a Shiite Muslim, and if I wasn't to be a Shiite Muslim, then I'd be a Christian, and if I wasn't to be a Christian, then I'd be Jewish. So you go back progressively from monotheism all the way through to where we are today. And the economic system that Baha'u'llah talked about, because one of the things that Baha'is it's forbidden to have congregational prayer. And when you look at a pandemic and a virus, wow, that's amazing. And that's where the old religions are struggling, because Christianity requires putting the hat around, and they can't pay the power bills if they don't have congregations, but that spreads the virus. Islam as well, men in one room, women in another, and a congregational side of things, and it keeps the community cohesive. So Baha'u'llah's teachings are fascinating, and so in a sense, progressive taxation is something at the heart of the Baha'i faith. Baha'u'llah.
Man, period.
Right. And so it's like a dude carrying